The Bills' official injury report is out. 4 players have been ruled out for Sunday. Jordan Poyer, Jordan Phillips, Matt Prater, and Daquan Jones. All but Jones were confirmed earlier this morning by Bills head coach Sean McDermott when joining Sal Kapacio on the Northwest Bank, on the Extra Point Show. Jones, though, suffered a setback with his calf injury. McDermott did say that with the media right before practice. Then there were just 2 other designations. They are both questionable, tight ends Dalton Kincaid and Dawson Knox. Everyone else should be good to go. And the Barnes Firm Injury Report, it is brought to you by the Barnes Firm. Injured for help, call 1-800-8-MILLION. The Bills do host the Eagles on Sunday at 4:25. Pregame right here is going to get underway at 11 a.m., and we'll carry you all the way to kickoff, where we'll hand things off to Chris Brown, Eric Wood, and Sal Kapacio, who will be on the call from the Northwest Bank broadcast booth. And do stay tuned. Sal's going to join the show at 5 p.m. for the latest on the Bills. Staying with the NFL, there are 2 games for Saturday, 4:30. Chargers hosting the Texans. That'll be on NFL Network. Then at 8 on Peacock, it's going to be the Packers hosting the Ravens. And for the Ravens, Lamar Jackson is doubtful as he deals with a back injury. For the Sabres, they're going to wrap up their short break today. They'll be back in action tomorrow night at home against Boston. We'll have the latest on the Sabres. Paul Hamilton joins the show a little bit later on at 4:30. Then there is some bowl action today in college football. The Game Above Sports Bowl sees Northwestern all over Central Michigan, 21-0 right now in the third. 4:30, it is the Rate Bowl between New Mexico and Minnesota. Then at 8, it's UTSA versus Florida International in the First Responder Bowl. All 3 of those games are going to be over on ESPN. It's your Paddock Chevrolet Sports Update. Paddock Chevrolet celebrating 90 years of being your hometown dealership. I'm Zach Jones for WGR Sports Radio 550.
My dad's not here right now. He's still at work. So I'm going to blast him.
Mike Schopp and the Bulldog.
I'm going to see if there's a clean version so that my parents and the people at my school will not get mad at me. We've got the spritzer filled with water, just in case if stuff gets too fire. I'm going to set up the speaker, and I'm going to listen to
Mike Schopp and the Bulldog.
I think this is the best
Mike Schopp
feature that I've heard in a long time. I think his flow is really good in it, and I like his aggressiveness on it. And
the Bulldog.
Put not enough effort in it. I think overall his flow was good, but I don't like that mobile rapping. That was my review of
Mike Schopp and the Bulldog.
Didn't need the spritzer. Wasn't fire enough. No spritzer for you. No spritzer.
Hi there. Football Friday, right? Confirmed. Football Friday. It's brought to you by Salino Law. Car crash? Call Salino. Call the 8s. And by Crosby's Pizza and Subs. Crosby's Hometown Fuel. Game day ready since 1922. I know it wasn't hump day, but it's still Friday. Well, that's good. On Wednesday's show at one point, looking ahead to the Christmas games, 2 on Netflix, 1 on Prime, I was like, oh, they really struck out on these matchups. No important games here. The only thing that mattered, well, I guess Detroit, and they bombed. But the only thing that really mattered, especially to our purposes in the playoff stuff, was Denver. And even that was a 2-touchdown favorite, crazy as that would have seemed, a long time ago, in Kansas City. But I said at one point, just kind of talking through the day by myself here. I don't know, Netflix, Prime, dud games. This is an opportunity. This is a way out. This is a way out from the clutches of the NFL, or as they put it every single time on every broadcast, the National Football League. This is a way out from their power over me. And then I said, well, come on, though. Who's kidding whom? I'm not going to skip these games. I did. It just sort of happened that way. I'm at 3 different places, homes, parties during the day, and I don't know if, my sister would have had I think she did, but we were in a different room, and it was Dallas, Washington, whatever. Followed it a little bit on my phone, and then Detroit, didn't even think about it. And then Denver, Kansas City, I was wiped by that point. I just did not have any energy or interest in getting to the night game. So you tell me. The only thing that mattered to the Bills was Denver's win. I can't give you a story about rooting for one team or the other, or just what Denver looked like. Sadly, I'm sorry about that, by the way. I probably should have done better on Christmas Day, but I didn't. Sam Panadovich is coming up at 3:30, which is great. It's Friday at 3:30, and he's coming on. I talked to him a little bit earlier, and I know he has, well, you might know too, if you've heard him on this show or heard him or followed him or anything else. He's made no secret of a massive investment in the Bills to win the Super Bowl. Like, he is totally pot committed, as we, hip people say, on the Bills. And he texted me last night when I was just not even thinking about the Denver. It's a Wonderful Life was happening at my house. And isn't it? It's a Wonderful Life was happening, and just like I had no inclination to go to flip to Arrowhead Stadium. Again, I'm just putting that out there. But he texted me like, the Bills will kill this team, he said about Denver. And did you see the game? Do you agree with that? I've got Sam, Adam Krauturst, Paul Hamilton, Sal Kapacio over the next 2+ hours. If you have a strong take on that, now's good. I mean, I'm here for it. I know Sam does. And what Denver actually looks like. I also on Wednesday's show, now you don't have to go back on demand and listen to it. I'm not sure it's even there because it's been 2 days. I know you can't find shows from like 2003 on there that we did, but we did do them. I can promise you. I did say on Wednesday also that I talked myself into the Jets plus 13.5. I mean, wow. So brave against New England. And I'm throwing out cases for that, logic, quote logic behind that thinking. And one point was division game on the road. Like, every team has this history. It doesn't have to hold up, but people kind of talk like this about the NFL, that second meeting when you're on the road in the division can be problematic. And that's what the Patriots have in the Jets. They beat the Jets the first time. It wasn't just a blowout. That's the thing about New England. Like, they usually don't just take you out. The best Bills teams in these last 5 years, and that's what worries me a little bit about this team this year, is they haven't done much of this. But they're playing it. They cover, right? Good teams win, great teams cover. The Bills, in those years where they were playing weaker opponents, I should know the numbers on this, and I really don't, but I know examples of times where, like, they blasted teams, and one comeback about this would be, well, they're not playing anybody. Like, well, the best you can do is just win by a lot. And the Patriots have not really done that this year. Neither has Denver. And that's what last night's game was, which is it was 13-13 in the fourth. There were 2 minutes left. It was tied like that, and Denver does get the win. So, I don't know. It's really, on Wednesday, again, you don't have to look it up. Early on Wednesday's show, I was thinking about how the narrative for the Bills this season really hasn't changed much during the season. They never really looked like the kind of team, or felt like the kind of team, if you will, that was just going to be too good for everybody. And as it happens, Atlanta, Miami, Houston, they were not even close to as good for those teams on those nights. And that's just what a pretty good team will be. The Bills are somewhere between pretty good and really good. I don't think they're great, but I don't think there is another AFC team, or maybe even NFL team, that is great. That's what this year is setting up to be as we get toward the playoffs. Denver, with that win, gets very close to, well, the division title first, but then the one. They have the Chargers in Week 18, and that's a team that can run them down if Denver were to lose that game. Your thoughts on this? I said on Wednesday also, yet another thing you don't have to go back and find on the Odyssey app, Odyssey app investors, that the Chargers getting to the top in that division would be better for the Bills. I don't know what to do with the Chargers. To me, they are the least intimidating team in the playoff mix, other than probably Pittsburgh. But Pittsburgh still has an aura. And they have a quarterback that's going to the Hall of Fame. I mean, that guy, the Bills roughed them up pretty easily the last time, and they've had their way with Aaron Rodgers in these last couple of seasons since he got old. But I think maybe Pittsburgh and the Chargers are kind of on the same level for me as an opponent, as a possible opponent. You might disagree, 803-0550 either way. Houston at LA is a game, that's tomorrow actually, tomorrow 4:25. Do I need a new subscription service for that? I'm not even sure. But Houston has become an it team in the conversation. And I'm a little bit reticent to jump in on that because I feel like it's a little bit easy, but I don't know. Sometimes a team like that, there's talent there, and they just get there. They just figure it out and get on a roll and win, and you can't block them, and they beat you. Like, it's just, I think there is that potential with Houston. I don't know about the Chargers. I don't know what they're really good at. So I think Denver, as opposed to LA, and again, I'm telling you, I didn't see last night's game, so maybe they looked ordinary and very beatable. Kind of sounds like they maybe did. But I think Denver has a couple of traits that make them more dangerous than the Chargers are. I feel like that's their stars on defense. I mean, that's Surtain, that's Benito. They've got game changers on defense, and the Bills have been a team this year that is vulnerable to that. Most teams are. The Bills are not last year's Bills where they really just never made mistakes. They're going to want to beat Denver with James Cook. They want to beat everybody with James Cook. And we'll see how this plays out in the end. This is the biggest sticking point in our conversations all season is like the Bills have the literal NFL rushing leader. And it's almost like we don't, well, I'm not saying you have to feel this way, but I think a lot of it's almost like we don't care. It doesn't sit right. Not that he's not good or that there's anything bad about that, other than you're not playing into your number one strength, which is Allen. So anyway, maybe the playoffs will be different. The Bills, if they go to Denver, will try to run the ball on them and make plays on defense and convert 3rd and 2 with Allen and just do the usual stuff. And that might be good enough. Would they be favored? If the Bills are doesn't matter, 5 or 6, they're on the road the first week. We don't know that for sure yet, by the way, but it's likely. And they're the highest seeded team to win, or, highest number, right? And Denver's the one. So they go to Denver in that second round. How would you feel? You don't want to take that right now, right? Because there's really not much better or worse than that. It's not that bad or that good. So I don't think you need to sign up for that. Maybe you'd want to. Depends how you feel about the Broncos, I guess. Would they be favored on the road? Maybe that depends on how they look in the first round. If they beat the Steelers 26-7 again, or whatever the score was the first time, where the game is not even close in the fourth quarter, that would make a statement. If they struggle and win, that would make a different statement. But you've got that possibility of Denver getting the bye now and winning the division, getting the bye, and being the home team there, maybe Buffalo, maybe whoever it is, Houston in that second round. 803-0550 for your calls. Philadelphia on Sunday. It's not as big of a game as it could have been, but it's still important. I feel the same way about the Jets as I did on Wednesday. On Wednesday in here, I sort of talked myself into them as a big underdog. I made a bet on it, and now I've got, listen, I'm not even kidding when I say this. I'm not saying this, to be sarcastic. I have to preface that sometimes. Because of the way I sound. Mac Hollins is out for New England. That might not be a small thing. Booty is out. One of these guys who changed the pronunciation of his name when he got to the pros. I don't know why so many players do that, but a lot of them do that. Where you think you know that it's Tyler Beatty or Keyshawn Boutte. And maybe they just don't want you to watch the tape of them in college, or that, not us, but like agents or scouts or something, and they just sort of rebrand themselves in the NFL. Tyler Shuck, really? So I think there's some of that going on, and I don't know, maybe there should be an investigation on that. But Booty, that's what he's going by, out, and Hollins out for New England. And maybe also Henderson out, which really limits the Patriots, like that's a lot of not what they do as much as what they can do that burns you, where they're not just a big play team, but with Booty and with Henderson, we saw Henderson bust 2 long touchdown runs against the Bills. They have that potential. Ramondre Stevenson, who has fumbled a bunch, but had a couple of plays against Baltimore, 2 short touchdown runs in the game in Orchard Park. Like, there's something there. But Henderson, I think, is the guy they want. And he left the Ravens game with a head injury. I don't know his status for Sunday at the Jets. But it sounds like the Patriots are a little bit limited, at least, for that game. And I don't know. The Jets are just perpetually limited. So I'm not going to try to convince you that what they have offensively is all that. But last home game, a young quarterback who, in a climate where jobs are going to be available, a win like this, just hear me out, all right? Sorry, keep your hands on the wheel, 2 hands on the wheel. Brady Cook, if he gets a win like this, or even looks good in a high-scoring loss, if that's possible for the Jets to ever have a high-scoring, performance, could be somebody where this is how I'm thinking that he might be thinking, might be able to make himself interesting going into the offseason. I don't know. I'm stretching, admittedly, by that. But I like the logic behind it that home, like Kansas City last night, with nothing going for it, completely dour vibes with the Chiefs. What happens? They're playing a team going for the 1 seed that is used to losing to them, and they take them all the way to the end without even their second-string quarterback. You get that from the NFL. So that a little bit encourages me for the Jets and their chances on Sunday against New England. You're out at the stadium on Sunday for a 4:25 kick. Yes, the beer and the food and the nostalgia of it nearing the end for that stadium, but that Patriot-Jet game, for as long as it's close, is going to be what's on your mind. If you're a fan, right? Like that'll be it. Because one Patriots loss now wasn't even going to be this if they lost to Baltimore. But one loss to the Jets or the Dolphins in their last 2 games completely changes the calculus for this playoff picture. Completely. Where the Bills would go from, a wild card team, a road team, possibly 3 times in 3 weeks. That's a hard road. Like, that's what they're looking at if the Patriots, at best, if the Patriots don't slip up. If they do, think about what being out there. This is one really, you can experience this online, but being at the stadium with all the other fans, if this were to happen, is just infinitely better. If you're out there and you get the final, Jets 16, Patriots 13, say, then it totally changes Sunday night. And you just have to win at that point. Because if the Bills were to get to, what would you say about this? If the Bills were to get to the AFC East title, which of course, I say of course, like everybody knows this, maybe not, but would be a 6th in a row. You've taken the Drake May love fest and dumped it in a garbage can, at least for now. If you can flip this as they lose 1 game to the Jets or next week to Miami, pretty much the same thing. If you get that and the Bills go to whatever, even if it's the 2 or even the 3, they might end up the 3 in that case and Denver, Jacksonville are 1-2, something like that. Still, you're playing at home then. What would that do to your excitement about these playoffs? Not necessarily a lot. Depends on the person. I mean, right now there are a lot. Sam's going to join me in 10 minutes, and he's one of these people, as far as I know from the last time we spoke. He's somebody that is really on board with the idea that the Bills can run the table in the AFC as a road team and get there. It helps a guy like Sam that they're going to be playing on the road probably because it helps the Bills' prices. It makes them a better value in the betting market. I looked today. How about this? Think about this in the context of not just this season and all of our conversations, but really the last 9 months or more with what we think the Bills' weaknesses are and just how they should address them. What is all this going to amount to? They've had these losses, high-profile losses, unexpected, as favorites, where they have gone to Atlanta and gone to Miami and gone to Houston and lost pretty decisively in those spots. Nevertheless, here we are post-Christmas, and there are only 2 teams in the NFL, this is at FanDuel, I think it was, it might be everywhere, that have shorter Super Bowl odds than they do. And one of them is Seattle. The other is the Rams. 2 teams, by the way, that might both be on the road in the first round of the playoffs themselves. San Francisco, with 2 wins, is the 1 seed in the NFC. But it's the Rams and the Seahawks. Sam Darnold's Seahawks. No offense. I guess that's some offense. How can I wiggle away from that? Sam Darnold's Seahawks are the second choice to win the whole thing. And the Rams are the first. And the Bills are the third. Take your Drake May and Bo Nix and Trevor Lawrence and everybody else, Justin Herbert, Will Anderson, right? All of it. The Bills are still the betting market favorite in the conference to come out of it, despite what the standings look like. The Rams and the Seahawks. So we'll see what happens. Yesterday, I told you I didn't really see anything, which I want to say I'm proud of myself for, but that's bad because that's not like what you should say when you work here. And it was not intentional. It wasn't like, okay, no matter what you do, stay away from the NFL today. Just do not look. No, it was not like that at all. It just sort of happened this way. But I know this much for the 3 games. We've covered Denver a little bit here already. I'm not sure if they're great, but they're like the Chiefs last year, but the Chiefs had a different reputation already than the Broncos do. I think, similar though, just the way they win. We just knew with Kansas City, there was a higher gear there, even though they almost never really showed it and almost never did this year at all. Is Denver actually good? Well, they're in great position, which is right now more important. Detroit, a couple of preseason picks of mine have borne out. One is that Detroit was just not going to be the same. Changes up front. Both coordinators leave. Tough division. Going to be hard to repeat what they've been able to do. Hard to meet the standard, and they were not able to do that. Bottoming out last night. 5 turnovers for Jared Goff in Minnesota, and they just couldn't get it done. And I also thought that going into the season that Washington was a fraud. I wanted, to be anti-Washington going into the season. I did a little bit of that. Remember, striking out on this thinking in week 1 when they played the Giants, like, oh, Washington's in for it. And that was right, but they didn't lose that game. They did cover that game. So that's what you got yesterday. 2 games tomorrow. Houston, LA, really interesting for our purposes in the AFC to see how those teams match up. It's a playoff rematch, right? Chargers went to Houston last year, what that looks like. And then Baltimore, Green Bay. And it might be really tempting, almost obvious to bet against the Ravens with all the continuing drama with Lamar Jackson and that team. It's 4.5 at Green Bay. He's listed as doubtful. Why isn't it more? I'm not touching it. I'm not giving Green Bay my vote there because 4.5, if you knew it's Tyler Huntley and a team ready for the offseason, it seems light for an opponent as good as the Packers. All right. So thanks for listening. Merry Christmas. Happy holidays. I'm Mike Schopp. Bulldog is off today and through most of next week. He'll be back next Friday, I believe. We have Sam Panadovich, Chicken Dinner, his podcast with Joe Ostrowski. Sam will join me after this break. Adam Krauturst today, Paul Hamilton with a Sabres check-in. They play the Bruins tomorrow night, going for an 8th straight win. The Sabres are, not the Bruins. At least I don't think the Bruins are. I know the Sabres are going for an 8th straight win. Sal Kapacio as well will join me at 5. Bulldog has sent in his picks, so we'll have that, even though he's not here to read them. I've got it. That'll be at 5:30. Football Friday. How about it? Mike Schopp here. Thanks for joining me. Sam Panadovich next. It's time for a break, and this break is brought to you by Snapdragon Apples, the official apple of the Buffalo Bills.
Continuity gives you a form this time of year and structure and just knowing each other defensively, or in this case, offensively in the pass game. That's important for us. And so we're very aware of that, heightened awareness of that, especially down the stretch. That's what we want. And where we're at are right now two different things. That's just being real with you here. So we're trying to find that in order to get it to here. It's taken longer than we would have liked.
Sean McDermott on everybody's favorite subject, the passing game. Brandon Cooks. Well, not much continuity or history or anything with Brandon Cooks and the Bills. He does have one catch so far. Was it the first play in New England? He had one catch, and that's been it. 5 targets. I mean, the names are almost, well, they're just a little bit funny at this point. All the different names that have been through. The idea that any of this rides on the likes of Cooks or McCole Hardman, any of it, it's not ridiculous, but it's amazing that all these years of success and being so close, it might be that somebody from that list of names, who knows who it is, even Josh Palmer, who's that? Their big get in the receiving game in the offseason, 20 catches through 16 weeks. Yeah, injuries, but not like he was piling up numbers anyway. Thanks for listening, and Merry Christmas. That should have been easier. Once again, I'm Mike Schopp. Bulldog is off through New Year's Day. Joining me now on the West Her Hotline, a man you know well, Sam Panadovich, host of the Chicken Dinner podcast, owner of at least one ugly Christmas sweater, eater of 2 Christmas dinners yesterday. The man has been through it. And, Sam, how are you feeling post-Christmas?
Oh, I'm so fat, Mike. It's a problem. You know, I told the story on the show. Joe and I did a Christmas night show. And, you know, somebody that I met at your party was like, wow, you're in better shape than I thought. And then yesterday somebody told me I was putting on pounds. So it hadn't even been a week, Mike. And I've just been destroying my body with food. And, you know, when you're back home for the holidays, the discipline just goes right out the door. I can also tell you this. About 5 minutes ago, I pulled over on the side of the road when I found out T.J. Watt wasn't playing, and I'm betting more and more on the Cleveland Browns. What could go wrong?
Wow. What's that number at this point? Is that moving?
It was 3. I mean, there's a chance it goes down 2.5, 2. I don't know if it's moved in the last 5 minutes. Yeah, so Wise Guys bet Cleveland to begin with. They came in and they bet 4 and 3.5, and as of this morning, it was 3, but then the report just came out that T.J. Watt is not going to play, and then Jalen Ramsey is questionable. The market is being bet like the Browns are going to win the game outright.
What does the Ravens game being tomorrow mean to this? Like, if the Ravens lose and they're favored to lose in Green Bay, then who needs the Steelers? So maybe then, you know, your bet on Cleveland is safer.
Right. I mean, I don't think it's going to get any better than now. So if you have a 3, I mean, you didn't ask me for one of my favorite bets, but that's where we're starting. I think if you can bet Cleveland +3 right now, you're going to get a great number, and it's only going to move in your favor.
34.5, Pittsburgh at Cleveland. Well, Sam, you've been very pro-Bills all season. It's interesting to me that we've made it through Christmas, and even though they're not in the division lead, they're still the best odds or shortest odds to win the conference in the AFC, better even than Denver, which helped itself in its positioning for the 1 seed last night. You texted me last night, you think the Bills are clearly superior to the Broncos.
I'm not afraid of them. I'm just not. They have a good team. They have an arguably great defense. And then you watch a third-string quarterback kind of do things. Granted, you know, the Chiefs didn't move the ball all that well, but the Chiefs were certainly in that game and had a chance to win that game outright with a guy I've never even heard of. And, Mike, I've been gambling on crazy things for a long time. I've never heard of that quarterback. And maybe that's my fault. But, like, to think that Bo Nix is going to go blow for blow with Josh Allen in the playoffs, I'm just not there. And, you know, I've been banging the drum for 6 weeks that Buffalo's the team to beat. And that's before Mahomes gets hurt and the Chiefs get knocked out. That's before, the whole Burrow thing. Remember 4 weeks ago, don't let Burrow come back and get hot. Okay, that ain't happening. Oh, what about Lamar? Okay, they're not going to make it, probably. And now it's like, now the hot thing is, Jacksonville, yeah, okay. Yeah, you trust the Jacksonville Jaguars in the playoffs? Give me a break. We're just looking for reasons as a collective, like a sports, collective, to not put the Bills far. And I'm just tired of it, man. And I understand that there are some issues with their defense, but there are issues with every team in the AFC. Like, there is no perfect team. There's no Brady Patriots. There's no Mahomes Chiefs. It's as wide open as it gets. And, the disrespect is not only in the future market, but the disrespect is in this game for Sunday. I mean, this is a pick'em offshore right now. Buffalo opened 3, Mike. Mm-hmm. And now we're 1.5, and there are some pick'ems. So even on the day-to-day market, people are betting against Buffalo. And I don't get it, man. I don't get it.
And that's another one where a previous game, a game already having been played, could affect sort of at least the vibes. I mean, if New England were to lose somehow at the Jets, and I'm taking the points with the Jets on Sunday, it changes a lot for the Bills incentives-wise against Philadelphia. Is there a quarterback? I know you like to look at this point you make all the time with the AFC through the lens of the quarterbacks. Is there a close second? Is it not Lawrence? Is it Herbert or Stroud or May? Who is the quarterback, if there is one, that you think could, as you put it, go toe-to-toe with Allen?
That's a really good question. I haven't thought about this, and obviously you and I don't change notes or exchange notes beforehand. I would say at full health it's Herbert, but he's not healthy, and their line is just battered right now. But I'm a big fan of that Herbert-Harbaugh combination. So I guess I would put obviously Allen's 1, Herbert 2, and then Lawrence 3, ?
Okay, above May?
Yeah, I need to see it from these kids. I think it's been a great season, but we've chronicled how easy their schedule has been in New England. I mean, they have like 1 win over a playoff team. It's just you're going to only play playoff teams. Yeah, right. You're only going to play playoff teams in the playoffs. Write that down and stamp it. So I'd like to see it from Nix. And last time we saw Nix in the playoffs, everybody knows what happened there. He turned into a pumpkin in the biggest moment. And I need to see it from guys like Nix and guys like May. And even to an extent, a guy like C.J. Stroud, who's, never really had a ton of playoff success. It's opening up in my eyes for Allen, man. As long as he plays an A game, they're not losing.
The Patriots will have a win over the eventual NFC South winner. Say what you want about that, as they've beaten both Carolina and Tampa for that list. Sam Panadovich with me on the West Her Hotline. Merry Christmas. Mike Schopp here. Bulldog is off today. Let's talk about a couple of the awards markets. I know from watching you and Joe Ostrowski throughout the season that Offensive Rookie of the Year award, it was almost like there was a new favorite every week. Now you had Travion Henderson, and he might miss this game. He left early in Baltimore. What does that look like now?
So I'm pulling it up on my phone. Let's see how I can do 2 things at once here. So award market, offensive rookie, Tet McMillan. Holy cow, minus 310 at DraftKings right now. So it's his award to lose. But you know who the late riser is, like that horse that's kind of closing the gap? It's Tyler Shuck. I believe you talked about this maybe a week or 2 ago. I think it was you. You were like, that's not a bad number at 20-1. Try 4-1 on Tyler Shuck right now. So McMillan, the big favorite, minus 310. Shuck 4-1, Ibuka 7-1, and then Henderson 20-1.
Is Shuck worth it at 4-1? I mean, they're nowhere near the playoffs. Tennessee and Atlanta the last 2 weeks. Can he do well enough? McMillan, it feels like McMillan is the favorite by default a little bit. I mean, he's good. He's been good. But Ibuka had it, and then he fell off, and then Dart might have had it, and that didn't. Now they don't want to throw the ball. Like, they're trying to preserve him. Henderson gets hurt. Judkins was interesting. He breaks his leg. It seems like somebody's going to back into that award.
Yeah, I don't know that there's a bet to be made. I mean, Joe and I didn't even want to bet Shuck at 20-1. So for me to even ponder it at 4, I want to slap myself in the face because I missed the best of it. I just don't think there's enough of a sample there. Like he hasn't played a lot relative to a guy like McMillan who's been putting up big games here. And I think there's also an appetite. You got a lot of eyeballs on McMillan this weekend, and that's because Carolina's at home against Seattle. Everybody's darling now. There's an opportunity there for Carolina to put up some numbers and put up some points against a very good defense. So if McMillan has a 7-catch, 80-yard touchdown game, it's a wrap on Sunday.
I think so. Yeah, I was a little bit harsh on him. Having him in fantasy, it's been okay. I mean, it didn't bust like a lot of other guys did. He was a 3-4 turn kind of pick, I think, a little later, McMillan. But he's going to get to 1,000 yards, so maybe he really will deserve it in the end. How about Coach of the Year? There have been a few interesting candidates this year. Vrabel is so famous, and the Patriots have done so well, but other guys here and there have been interesting. Ben Johnson, or earlier in the season it was Steichen in Indianapolis. That's over. What do you think happens there?
So this is always a very fun market because it's never the obvious choice. And as I say that, I look at Mike Vrabel at -110 and think, wow, that's a coin flip. That's what they're saying. They're basically giving you Vrabel against the field. And Vrabel's -110. McDonald 330, Shanahan 330, Johnson 650. Again, you're betting this on December 26th. You're not going to get the best of the number. I think Kyle Shanahan has done the best job of any coach, given what he's dealt with, honestly. And you know me, I had that Niners win total over 10.5. Yoo-hoo! Nice win there. I mean, if I would have told you that Fred Warner and Bosa and Mikael Williams, their rookie first rounder on defense, and Gross Matos, like all those guys would be out for the year and they would still win 13 games, like you would have had me committed. But I mean, what he's done with the offense and what Salah's done with the defense, like to me, that's the best combo in the league. And, they're probably going to beat the Bears on Sunday night and have 12 wins. They could potentially, I don't think it's going to happen, but they could, win the West. If you wanted me to go outside Vrabel, I'd be looking at Shanahan at +330. You might be able to find a better price at a different book, but I'm not laying 110 on Vrabel, and I'm not taking Ben Johnson at 7-1 because I don't think the Bears win. That game is very big for Coach of the Year. Shanahan against Johnson. Whoever wins that one has a chance to unseat Vrabel.
Yeah, seems like maybe Johnson at 7-1 is the bet rather than the Bears on the money line.
Yeah, no, that's a good call. Yeah, if you like the Bears, you might want to pop a little Ben Johnson 7-1. That's a great call.
And I like the Jets. So, am I crazy for liking the Jets, by the way?
No, at this point in time, these teams just got to stay healthy. I mean, do the Patriots really need to win by 21 points? I don't think so. And I think the Jets, they're spunky to say the least. They can hang around. I don't think they're going to win, and you didn't say that, of course, but it's a big number to lay on the road in the NFL.
Right. Well, futures bets, we've taken the credit this year with certain bets that I've made along the way. Kansas City to miss, that was Joe on the show with me that day saying that was cute, and they barely won another. I'm not sure they've won another game. I had Indianapolis at 8-2 to lose out. Whew. And I couldn't. I bother you often enough. I didn't find that anywhere, like an alternate line where they were just going to go 0-7 in their last 7 games. It's 0-5 so far, and that's obviously live. But I cashed out on all the Colts stuff already, like to not win the division, to miss the playoffs. Under 11.5, come on. We'll take our flowers on that one. But never. I wonder what that would have been. 8-2 to go to finish 8-9. What would the price on that have been? Oh, geez.
Probably 100 to 1 or higher. I mean, without doing any math on it. I mean, it's all math. But I would guess you'd be in the triple-digit range, 100 to 1, 125 to 1. And they're probably going to get torqued by Jacksonville. I mean, that number's like 6. Jacksonville at Indy. That's a lesson. When we get to this conversation next year and we look up after 10 games and Team A is 7-3 with a guy like Daniel Jones at quarterback, just call me and we'll just yell short together. Like, short! Like, that's what you got to do because everybody starts getting crazy and, maybe they can win a playoff game. And the reality is what goes up must come down for the most part.
The thing for me, Sam, was their schedule. Jacksonville twice, Houston twice, San Fran, Seattle, and one more. And like, all right, well, I don't think they're better than anybody there. So, I mean, you can't predict the injury to Jones, but it was still Daniel Jones. Tough season for them. Okay. So I guess next up for you and me is next Friday, and it'll be 2026.
Ooh, I can't believe we're this far. We're this long in the tooth. By the way, I don't know what the stipulations are because I'm not in New York. Obviously, you guys are. I do like Clemson tomorrow in the Pinstripe Bowl, which is at Yankee Stadium. I honestly don't know if you guys can bet that. I don't, because I don't know if you can bet on bowl games that are in the state of New York. I literally have no idea. But if you can, I like Clemson -2.5 against Penn State tomorrow.
I have it on my app, so yes.
Oh, fire the cannons.
It has to be a New York team, apparently. So.
Okay. See, I always lose track. All these different states are always on their different iterations of the law and what works and what doesn't. So if you can bet Clemson, wink, wink, I would do it. There's going to be some news, I think, at Penn State tomorrow, some opt-outs. Sounds like they're down 4 starters on the offensive line. And James Franklin, Mike, he still has his hand in that cookie jar. He's trying to take guys to Virginia Tech, and a lot of that's going to come out tomorrow, in my opinion.
Clemson and Cleveland. We're into the orange helmets this weekend.
Oh, gross, dude.
Go get your money. Sam, Happy New Year. Thanks for your time, as always.
Happy New Year. Merry Christmas. I'll talk to you next week.
Sam Panadovich, Chicken Dinner, his podcast with Joe Ostrowski. You can find that anywhere. Ian Rappaport reports that Max Crosby will be out Sunday. He's been battling a knee injury since October. Apparently, they've already put Brock Bowers down for the season. It's the Giants and the Raiders. The loser is in position A for the number 1 overall pick, and the Raiders seem to be acting like they know that, which I think I want to give them credit for. But to be fair, for many years I made the point, people pay for tickets. They deserve to see your best guys. So I don't know. When I would say that, we'll talk about this later maybe. When I would say that, I would roundly disagreed with on that point from people who largely had tickets to meaningless Bills games. Like they didn't care. They understood. Protect your guys, better draft pick. I rarely talked to anybody in the drought years with this point in mind that thought it was also objectionable that teams would sit their best players in meaningless games. This was often more a point about the good teams who were resting guys, like Peyton Manning with the Colts, that kind of thing. Maybe we'll get back to that. 803-0550 if you have a take. At 4, Adam Krauturst, then Paul Hamilton at 4:30. Just in, Jordan Love out for the Packers. It'll be Malik Willis and then probably Tyler Huntley in that game. Ravens, Packers. Interesting. Mike Schopp here. This is WGR. Welcome back. Got to keep this short. Those are the rules. Went a little bit long with Sam. Adam Krauturst, Paul Hamilton, next hour. Merry Christmas. Welcome back. I'm Mike Schopp. Bulldog is off again today. He'll be off on Sunday as well. I'll have postgame for Eagles-Bills, 4:25 kick. Again, Jordan Love out for Green Bay. That's Malik Willis now against probably Tyler Huntley and the Ravens. The Bills are in the playoffs, as you probably know, for the 7th year in a row, 8 out of 9 as well, after 17 straight years without, and you probably knew that too. They are 83%, according to the New York Times playoff device, for the wild card. So 5 and 6 simulations have the Bills in the wild card and not the division title. That, of course, I keep saying of course. It's not like everybody knows everything about this stuff, but New England needs to lose another game for the Bills to have a chance to move up. Their last, these Denver last year and these other first-round games, I guess are wild card games, but just maybe this is old school. I feel like it's only a wild card win if you are a wild card, not one of the teams that won its division but plays wild card teams in the first round like the Bills have done several years in a row. If you want to find the last Bills wild card playoff win as a wild card team, that's the comeback game, I think. It's the last time they were a non-division winner. Miami won the AFC East that year, and the Bills went through in the AFC, beating Houston and then Pittsburgh and Miami. So that happened. I can't think of another year since where they were a non-division winner and won a playoff game. Not in 96, 95 with Miami. Were they a wild card team then? Maybe that could be right. I'll find out. We'll talk to Adam Krauturst next. Mike Schopp and the Bulldog, WGR.
The Buffalo Bills official injury report is out for this weekend. 4 players have been ruled out against the Eagles: Jordan Poyer, Jordan Phillips, Matt Prater, and Daquan Jones. Tight ends Dalton Kincaid and Dawson Knox are both questionable after being limited today. Everyone else, though, on the injury report should be good to go, while for the Eagles, linebacker Nakobe Dean and tackle Lane Johnson have both been ruled out. The Barnes Firm Injury Report, it is brought to you by the Barnes Firm. Injured for help, call 1-800-8-MILLION. And the Bills are going to be hosting the Eagles on Sunday at 4:25. Pre-game, though, right here on WGR. We'll get underway at 11 a.m., and we'll carry you all to kickoff, where we'll then hand things off to Chris Brown, Eric Wood, and Sal Kapacio, who will be on the call from the Northwest Bank broadcast booth. And do stay tuned. Sal will give us the latest on the Bills when he joins the show in just about an hour at 5 p.m. 2 games tomorrow, though, in the NFL. 4:30 sees the Chargers host the Texans. That game's going to be over on NFL Network. Then at 8 over on Peacock, it is going to be the Packers hosting the Ravens, and this could be another game of backup quarterbacks. Lamar Jackson is doubtful for Baltimore. He's dealing with a back injury, and then Jordan Love is already ruled out. Malik Willis will get the start for Green Bay. Then on Sunday, Steelers, they have ruled out T.J. Watt as he continues to recover from his collapsed lung. Steelers at Cleveland Sunday at 1. And then the Sabres, they are going to wrap up their short break today. They'll be back in action tomorrow night at home against Boston. We'll get the latest on the Sabres. Paul Hamilton joins the show in just about a half hour at 4:30. That's your Paddock Chevrolet Sports Update. Paddock Chevrolet celebrating 90 years of being your hometown dealership. I'm Zach Jones for WGR Sports Radio 550.
It's Mike Schopp.
Working relationship you'd have with Satan.
It's Mike Schopp.
I've often wondered that. Like he, they, I don't know what his pronouns are, or their pronoun. Anyway, Satan.
And the Bulldog.
What's the upside of doing well? Well, maybe they're too busy making everyone else's life hell.
Oh, boy.
And
Wow.
you might just be able to do your own thing if you're partnered with Satan.
It's Mike Schopp and the Bulldog.
They're too busy, making Scott Norwood miss field goals.
Oh, come on.
On WGR Sports Radio 550.
Merry Christmas. Welcome back. Mike Schopp here. Bulldog is off today. Bills and Eagles Sunday, 4:25 from Orchard Park. Joining me now on the West Her hotline, what hasn't been said about this man? I mean, that's really the only thing to say. What hasn't been said about Adam Krauturst? If you follow Adam on, he calls it Twitter, you will have seen a tweet from Wednesday that Adam was in 6th place in the FFWC World Championship Tournament, $150,000 up top. Now he's in 1st after last night. Adam, how much of this money have you spent yet?
Oh, gosh. First of all, it's a Christmas miracle that I'm here, and none of it, because I don't, it's been a long time coming to try to win one of these, and it's never over. So I've spent money, but none of this money.
I see. You are somebody, I think this is most people I know, that, and I don't mean this in a bad way, I can be this way too, like that just sort of expects the worst. How do you deal with the excitement, the expectations here? Because, sometimes somebody wins here. Somebody wins these things. You've come close before. So how sincere are you when you talk like, well, you didn't just do this now, but like if you were to, when you say something like, it's not going to be me, something will go wrong. How much do you mean that if you were to say that?
Well, when you play as much as you and I do, it's like you've kind of seen it all. You got to get super, super lucky to win these things. This is my 3rd time in the top 5 on the final weekend of one of these big tournaments, and I've just kind of seen it all happen. I do like my chances this year,
right.
Kind of the way that it's run out. I would have loved for Jake Ferguson to not get hurt yesterday. That hurt me, but you got to look on the bright side. Like Ferguson still scored more points than Jared Goff and Jahmyr Gibbs. So it's like, okay, well, there's at least I don't have them. So, but yeah, it's tough. It's an emotional roller coaster when you play the stakes sometimes that I play at, which is probably too high of stakes. But but then you get the moments last night where RJ Harvey scores on the last play of the game for Denver, and you just the roof feels like it's going to cave in because everyone's screaming. So it's just so loud.
Hoping to ride Jacoby Brissett to $150,000, just like we all assumed would be the case before the season. What a year, Adam, at quarterback around the league. Like, now Jordan Love is out. Probably Lamar Jackson is out tomorrow night in Green Bay. So Malik Willis, Tyler Huntley, the Chiefs guy, Oladukin. I doubt anybody really started him, but I guess against Denver. But I guess you could have Brosmer. What the heck? I asked on Wednesday, my guest, who was it on Wednesday I was talking to? But if this year, I'll think of it. If this year is different in this area, like injuries, or it's just that we sort of come to think that every year is the worst ever with injuries. I think at quarterback first for this year, because it's just been some of these names, I don't even know them.
Yeah, 100% with that. Usually it was like, okay, I could take a quarterback high in my draft because they're consistent, they score a ton of points, and they also don't get hurt as much. While this year, and maybe a little bit last year, was a lot of that. Quarterbacks getting hurt not only affects the quarterback that you have, but it affects the receivers around them too. So the receivers get hurt. I know there's a team in the tournament that I'm in, a guy that very, very well, Chad Schrader. He's right behind me, and he has Lamar Jackson and Jordan Love, and so he might be dead. Thinking, 2 weeks ago, he thought he was just fine. So,
wow.
Yeah, it's like you get a lot of that, and it depends on what league you kind of play in. Maybe there is some waivers you can pick up guys championship week, but other than that, and who do you want to pick up? Like you said, you've got these third stringers, second stringers. A lot of these offenses, like as soon as a guy gets dinged up, they don't even go back in the game. Look at Javonte Williams yesterday, even Jake Ferguson. Who knows how hurt he really was, but they had nothing on the line. It's really hard with these quarterbacks and these star players to know how hard these teams are going to push them when they're not in playoff contention. So, the quarterback position has been really, really rough. I know there's been a lot of talk kind of recently of, I think Davis Maddox had a tweet a couple weeks ago about how the position just they're not. They're not developing these quarterbacks like they used to. And so a lot of the guys are getting hurt because they're not seeing the blitz coming and all that type of stuff. So it's definitely something interesting to take a look at.
Yeah, Davis was making a point about Phillip Rivers and how bad a sign it might be for the league that they would start Phillip Rivers over a healthy Riley Leonard. And then Mina Kimes sort of trolled Davis and used his tweet on her show. And I talked to Davis about that. He and I are friends, and he's a part of the ADP chasing team. And he said this on another stream. He's like, look, I'm not going to war with Mina Kimes. You just want everybody to hate you. But in his defense, Riley Leonard had full practice. He was right. He had full practices that week and then last week, and they really did choose Rivers off the couch over Leonard. So he was not wrong. Well, good luck, Adam. I mean, this is really cool. And if it wasn't clear from how Adam broke down the Jackson Love team and this kind of thing, you can't use waivers anymore at this point. Like these are teams that have won through all their different separate leagues and go into the sprint for the big money. And so Chad, in his example, cannot pick up Quinn Ewers at this point. Like just nobody is allowed to do that. All right, Adam. So let's talk some Bills here. Dalton Kincaid, he's iffy for this game, isn't he always? Mm-hmm. If he plays, I mean, it depends on your options too, but Kelsey's out of the way for this week, and that's kind of over, I think. Bowers goes to IR. How viable is Kincaid if he's active?
Man, I would not want to. Yeah, even if he's active, he's playing 29% of the snaps. I think the Bills, they want to run the ball, and I think he might be their third best blocking tight end. And so, with him being dinged up all the time, I think they're okay with not having him out there. Now, again, he was healthy-ish against Cleveland, but they didn't really need to pass. So maybe in this Eagles game, you get a little bit more of him because they're probably going to need to pass. The Eagles can pretty much, if they're running right, they can score anyway through the air, on the ground. So I could see this being a game that you might be able to play him, but I would think that you could probably find somebody else or use somebody else like a Harold Fannin or something like that. I'm sure he's not on waivers, but
now he's hurt.
Oh gosh.
I mean, he's not ruled out yet, but he's questionable, so you might not even have him. He's probably, the rankings I'm looking at Football Guys, he's tight end 4.
Yeah. So you really got to pay attention this time of year because, again, like I was saying, the teams, if they're out of contention, they're not gonna risk franchise players, young guys like that. So yeah, I mean, I probably have him. I'm not over my rankings for him, but he's probably like 18th or 19th somewhere in there. Dalton Kincaid. So I'm sure you can find, or I'm sure you got somebody on your bench that might be a little bit stronger.
It was Dave Tripoli I was talking to on Wednesday about this big Eagles guy, Eagles and Bills, and he made a point that I was thinking of earlier. It was Mike Dempsey was on with me last week, Adam, and I brought up James Cook to him. He is the NFL's leading rusher this season, James Cook, with 2 games to go. This year, he just did not get that much credit from the fantasy community for the year he had with all the touchdowns. It was so touchdown heavy last year. We tend to bet against that. And, I mean, he's in double digits again, and he leads the league in rushing. So what about next year? Is he a first-round pick?
You know, it's funny. I just saw somebody talking about how he might be a top 3 running back in next year's draft. I'm probably off of him again at that point. I mean, I've been wrong on him the last 2 years. But I can't see spending a first-round pick. He's also played. I could be wrong, but I think I don't think he's missed 1 game in the last 2 years. Mm-hmm. So he's kind of due for some of that regression there, which could hurt you. And who knows what the Bills are going to do in the offseason? They might invest in the passing game a little bit more, and I think that could hurt James Cook a little bit. But I mean, you can't argue with the production. I mean, I could certainly see him being a mid-second round pick. I mean, he gets a lot of the work. I wish he was more involved in the passing game. I don't know what the contract situation is for all the Bills running backs, but maybe they push him into a little bit bigger of a role in the passing game. He's certainly capable. I mean, he had a drop last week, but he's certainly capable of doing it. And just from a Bills perspective, I really love the way that he's kind of gone about his business this year. Sometimes you never know when you pay these guys, anybody, like, are they in it for the love of the money? Do they want it for the love of the game? But I think James Cook he got paid, and he's really upped his game, and you can see he's heavily invested in the team, which I like to see.
Ty Johnson is under contract for next year, and so would Ray Davis be, having been a rookie last year. So the running back room could end up looking the same. With Adam Krauturst, full-time fantasy. Adam and I have hosted the Deep End Fantasy Podcast for quite a while. We have to bring that back, I think. Should we bring that back? It's been a year.
Listen, after this weekend, we might have to. You know what I'm saying? Like we might be obligated to.
1 win, 2 stream.
Yes, exactly.
That's the recipe. How about Josh Allen's year? Adam, your favorite. He hasn't been hurt. We've got Jaden Daniels, who busted all the injuries, Lamar Jackson in and out. But Allen, while being his usual durable self, has just not put the big numbers up. And it's almost like last year happened and he won the MVP. And like, okay, well, that's going to have to regress the other way. And you're going to get 4,000 yards passing or whatever it is. And again, they're winning without big stats from him, other than the typical rushing touchdown. Not that we got one last week. What about him through your perspective this year in fantasy, and then maybe next year? What are we doing with Allen? Is he QB1 anyway, but maybe not as high of a pick, or what?
I mean, a couple of years ago, right? No, I don't think any quarterback had ever been the number 1 fantasy quarterback 3 years in a row, and I think he did it in points per game maybe 3 years in a row. He might be on year 5 now, at least where he's in top 2 in fantasy points per game. Mm-hmm. But he's getting there on rushing. Like you said, he's getting older. You can see he's getting a little bit more banged up. He's getting a little bit slower. And so I think maybe the Bills transition to but again, he's doing this with, receivers that literally nobody wants. They're hitting waivers. They're picking them up. They're cutting them. They're starting. They have a different receiver lineup every week. It's Tyrell Shavers. It's Gabe Davis. Like, if the Bills decide, hey, listen, let's invest a little bit more in our quarterback throwing the ball so he doesn't have to run. Like, it'd be nice for him to not have to run for 15 touchdowns. Maybe you can get a decent receiver and he can throw for 5 or 6 more, and run for a couple less to kind of save his body a little bit. But I mean, I'm generally not the guy that takes quarterback early. I don't have any, and again, I think Allen's the best quarterback on the planet, but I don't have much of any of Josh Allen yet to spend a 3rd round pick on him. So I was a huge Stafford guy this year, huge Stafford guy. I was getting him and when it comes to fantasy too, it's like those are when I've had my most success is when you grab those 10th, 11th, 12th round quarterbacks that end up hitting. That's what elevates your team to the next level, because then you spent that third round pick on a receiver or a running back like James Cook and combined him with a Matt Stafford. So I think I'm probably going to be off Allen again next year unless they do something crazy, which, the GM, I don't know if he's willing to kind of eat crow on the receiver conversation yet, but unless they do something drastic and trade a pick for a really good receiver or something like that, I'll probably be off of him, and I'll probably be trying to find the next best thing in the 10th, 11th, 12th round, like we did in years past with Josh Allen, with Patrick Mahomes, with Lamar Jackson, with Jaden Daniels, all these guys. You get them in those 10th, 11th, 12th round areas, and that's what really wins these championships for you.
Are you saying that your JSN Stafford teams have been better than my Lamar Jackson or Jaden Daniels Bashal Tootin teams? Is that what you're saying?
I've got one chasing that exact team chasing 150K right now. But again, there are times when that works too. If you Jaden Daniels, if Bashal Tootin was, maybe Rico Dowdle, you might still be there. So you just never know with the injuries and when and how they're going to hit.
I don't have to tell you this. You know how much I love playing fantasy football, but like you mentioned Rico Dowdle. To me, that's one. This is Carolina. Chuba Hubbard emerged last year. They paid him midseason. I don't know why they had to do that, but they decided to do it. And then they bring in Dowdle from Dallas, who was fine for Dallas. How much was it worth to know what the Panthers were planning to do between these two guys? I don't like feeling cynical about it, but as much as we talk about it and speculate every day during the offseason, there are people that really know what the plan is. And the coaches and the teams go out of their way to protect that information, but there are people who know, like even the players, or I don't know who else it would be, but there's a handful of people that know what they might even know, like in informed opinion, how Jackson Smith in Jigba is in line to do. This is what we're going to do. Offensive. I was off Seattle, and it's killing me because the offensive line was supposed to be bad, and Cooper Kupp was supposed to be bad. He kind of is. Darnold under pressure. There were all these reasons to think that Seattle would just not be able to function. And some of these teams that have good skill position players just cannot function, like Garrett Wilson or somebody. And so who cares? Like, it's a bust. But JSN was one where if you happen to bet on it, you're getting the offensive player of the year maybe. And, like, what a great bet.
I don't know if the coaches know or if they're, like, we've had this conversation before, like, are they stubborn? Do they actually know? Like, I'm a couch potato. I don't know anything about football, but I know that Henderson is better than Stevenson. And it takes an injury to Stevenson. It takes an injury to Hubbard. It takes an injury to all these guys. It took 2 injuries to Drew Bledsoe to get Tom Brady out there finally forever. Like, do they really know? Like, or do they just just an injury, a lucky or unlucky injury, lead to, oh look, our backup's better than our starter?
Well,
like, it's just.
I do think there's something to, like, take Travion Henderson. I do think there's something to the blocking element, being able to be trusted in the backfield, and coaches prefer veterans, and how long the season is. I mean, that's why I love drafting rookies in best ball stuff, because you get to December, and the theory is that by then, Henderson's a good example of this, that by then there's a draft capital investment that matters. You get to December, and that guy's going to be the one you want on the field. His young legs and everything else. That happened. Of course, he got hurt in the Ravens game, but that's one where that added up. Too many other times, it's a guess, and it can be demoralizing. And then somebody else guesses differently and hits it, and you're just dead like that. I don't know. Not the time of year to be cynical, but
the JSN conversations, that's one where, like, okay, we don't know. Like, there was no injuries there. That was just like, is JSN a true number one? Can he do it by himself? Because he had DK Metcalf there before. Like, can he do it by himself? Is Darnold good enough? And the answers were yes to all of it. And the Seahawks I think they're the 1 seed now currently in the NFC. That who saw that coming? So, and again, when it comes to receivers, it's all about coaching. It's all about, like, are we going to give him the ball? Last week he had 0, maybe 1 point in the first half, and then he explodes for 20-something fantasy points in the second half just because they started throwing him the ball. He ended up with like 14 targets. So the coaches do know that. They know who they're going to go to with the ball. But that would be, if you could have like one piece of information all year in the off season, it's like that would be it. Like who our coach is going to throw the ball to. And I would love to know that.
Yeah, of course. Can the Bills do this, Adam? If they have to go on the road, can they win all 3 games on the road?
What's interesting is that everyone's saying how, this is the easiest road the Bills have had, since Josh has been there. But you look at the statistics. I think I read something that was like 3%. Like if you're a 5, 6, or 7 seed, you have a 3% chance to, I don't know if it's to make the Super Bowl, win the Super Bowl, just because it's hard to go on the road for all these games and win. I just wish their defense was better. I wish if they had the defense they had 2 years ago, I'd be very excited. But I think their pass defense is okay, but their run defense is obviously horrible. They need to, if they can play with some leads, I think they can really compete. And none of the teams, you think a team scares you, and then all of a sudden you see them like the Broncos yesterday, barely beat a third string quarterback. And then you see these, it's like, okay, well, we can beat them, and we can beat the Jaguars, like stuff like that. I think with Josh, it comes down to like he loses, and I feel like they've lost to like mystique. They lose to like, okay, it's the Chiefs. Can we beat the Chiefs? Oh no, the Chiefs. I don't think that mystique is there this year, and so I think that they're going to go out there carefree, not having that like thing looming over them. And I think that they cannot score with anybody if they let Josh cook. They just have to play with a little bit of a lead, and I think they'll be okay. And if they get Pittsburgh round 1, I really like their chances.
Very possible. Bills second in the league on defense in yards allowed against the pass, 29th in yards allowed against the run. Adam, Merry Christmas. Thanks for your friendship and all your time that you've given us. And good luck in that big one.
Of course. Merry Christmas to you, my friend.
Thanks, Adam. Adam Krauturst with us on the WGR Hotline. Paul Hamilton next. We'll check in on the Sabres, who go for an 8th straight win tomorrow night at home to Boston. Mike Schopp here. Bulldog is off through New Year's Day. This break is sponsored by Snapdragon Apples, the official apple of the Buffalo Bills.
The Buffalo Bills official injury report is in. 4 players are out for this Sunday: Jordan Poyer, Jordan Phillips, Matt Prater, and Daquan Jones. The only other injury designations for this weekend are tight ends Dalton Kincaid and Dawson Knox. Both are questionable after being limited today. Everyone else should be good to go, while for the Eagles, linebacker Nakobe Dean and tackle Lane Johnson are officially ruled out. And the Barnes Firm Injury Report, it is brought to you by the Barnes Firm. Injured for help, call 1-800-8-MILLION. The Bills do host the Eagles on Sunday, 4:25. Pregame right here, though, will get underway at 11 a.m., and we'll carry you all the way to kickoff, where we'll then hand things off to Chris Brown, Eric Wood, and Sal Kapacio, who will be on the call from the Northwest Bank broadcast booth. And do stay tuned. We'll get more on the Bills in just about a half hour when Sal joins the show. Staying with the NFL, there are 2 games tomorrow, 4:30. The Chargers host the Houston Texans. That game will be over on NFL Network. Then at 8 on Peacock, it is the Packers hosting the Ravens, and backup quarterbacks continue to be the name of the game. Lamar Jackson is doubtful as he deals with a back injury. Tyler Huntley would be the starter if Jackson cannot go, and then Jordan Love already has been ruled out for Green Bay. Malik Willis is expected to get the start. Then on Sunday, Steelers have ruled out TJ Watt as he continues to recover from a collapsed lung. Steelers at Cleveland Sunday at 1. And then for the Sabres, they do wrap up their short break today. They'll be back in action tomorrow night at home against Boston. And we'll get the latest on the Sabres coming up next as Paul Hamilton will join the show. That's your Paddock Chevrolet Sports Headlines. Paddock Chevrolet celebrating 90 years of being your hometown dealership. I'm Zach Jones for WGR Sports Radio 550.
He might not know game to game, but thinking back a couple of weeks, right around the time when everybody seemed to know that Kevin Adams would be on his way out, and Paul said, they're maybe not bad, but for the Sabres to get in it, they're going to need a 10-game winning streak. Well, we're at 7. And wouldn't you know it, Paul, they're in 7th place through 7 straight wins. So this is to your point. It's still so close in that division, though. 10 points top to bottom. A couple more, you get your 10-game winning streak, and they're right there.
So, yeah, really. I mean, that's 3 more, and they probably would be in there because, as you know, I go by points percentage because it takes the games in hand out, which means they would only have to pass Ottawa and Washington right now. Sabres are at 556. Senators are at 569. Washington would be in that 8th spot at 581. So, they've gotten over 6. They need 2 more, and that's about what it would take. About 10 wins to, accomplish that and get yourself into that spot.
Several of these recent wins have gone past regulation. And I wonder if you think, this is something we've talked about through the years when the Sabres have fallen short. Like, they just, too many regulation losses and not enough, quote, loser points. They've had 10 games this year get to overtime. And lately, they've been running well on those games. How much of a skill is that? Like, late in games, when it's the last commercial break and the game is tied, how much do you think teams can control over? And do they think like this to get the game to overtime?
Well, if you're trying to get the game to overtime, you got to minimize the chances. And since Seattle, that's what they've done. They've been either tied or in a 1-goal game every game since then. And they defended it in every game except the Islander game, which they wound up winning in overtime. And that they didn't get tied up on 5-on-5. It was 6-on-4 that they gave up the tying goal. So really, in 5-on-5, they defended it very well in that game also. So and how are they doing it? Well, they've stopped, handing the puck to the other team and giving them 3-on-1s or breakaways, or in one occasion a 2-on-0, and just putting your goaltender in a horrible situation. I mean, yeah, the goaltender every now and then had to make a big save, which is his job. But you don't want to put him in this spot where he has to make 5 big saves for you, because he's not going to make 5 big saves for you. He's human. So that's where I think the difference is. They have bought in finally from top to bottom to Lindy Ruff and what he wants them to do. and they're doing it. Instead of this is a hard-headed bunch. They like to do it their way. They think their way is great. And then next thing you know, they're in last place in the conference. So this time when they were in last place in the conference, they decided, well, you know what? Maybe we should do it Lindy Ruff's way, see how that works. And so far, they've done it that way, and it's worked well.
Have you talked to players about the GM change and whether it's they're saying it or you're thinking it? How much credit does that move get for what's happening?
They're not talking about how much credit it is. They all said they liked Kevin Adams and all that after, they felt responsible for him being fired because they're the ones on the ice and they were the ones screwing things up on the ice. So, it has to help because just talking to the players now, you can just see it's like a cloud lifted off of them. It's like they're freer and, they've for all of them in their Sabre career, it's just been misery. The misery of horrible losses, horrible seasons. You're out of it by the holidays, and it's just year after year, pounding at you and pounding at you. And now all of a sudden that's gone, and it's a new day, and you have a GM who has actually done the job for 11 years, and he hires a guy to be his assistant who's actually done the job for just as long with the Montreal Canadiens. And it just seems like they're becoming an organization now. I almost it seems like, amateur hour is over, and now the pros have taken over. And, it's so far in a week, or however long it's been, has it been a full week yet?
Since the change?
Yeah.
Just a little over.
A little over a week. It just seems like this guy's no nonsense. He's going to tell you the way it is, whether you like to hear it or not. And, he's not afraid to go for it either. And he's already brought in his own people in a couple of occasions. And, it's so you can already feel that, all right, he wants people that know how he wants things done. He's bringing them here. And I'm sure there will be more to come in the future.
Their first game under Kekalainen officially as GM was last Thursday. So 8 days ago, that's the Philadelphia win on the 18th. With Paul Hamilton, so if you haven't already said it, I'm asking about like the how and the why. What's the what here? What are they doing better? You're talking about, the broader spectrum of like listening to the coach and executing whatever that is that you mean. Is there what else has contributed to this run?
Well, how many times have you heard me say, just pick a goalie and let him act like the starting goaltender? Let him get on a run. And this is on Lindy Ruff. Don't just sit there, all right, he played 2 games, he played a bad one, let's pull him out and let's go to the next guy. That's what he was doing. And nobody could get into the net and get on a roll until Lyon has done that. It was in Calgary where it was not going well for Luukkonen after 40 minutes. Lyon came out and didn't come out of the net until Luukkonen started on Sunday against the New Jersey Devils. And by the way, played probably his best game of the year. Played very well. Held them in that game until they could get their legs. And before that, Lyon hadn't won a game since the end of October against the Toronto Maple Leafs. And then all of a sudden he wins every game he's in. He didn't win the Calgary game, but from that, then he got in because of an injury to Ellis in the next game, wins that game, and then he's starting all the rest of them and winning all those. And I fully believe, and I've asked him, and he said it is easier when you get a chance to get in there and get yourself on a roll and, not have to worry about, am I going to be in the next game or whatever. And that's what I felt was missing. Pick a guy and make him your starting goalie for a little bit, for 20 games or 25 games. See how that works. Instead of just, 2 games, he didn't do well. Now let's give the next guy 3 games. No, he didn't do well. Okay, that wasn't working, and I think that was one of the key things to this.
Boston here tomorrow night, so I'd assume Lyon again, right? He played in Ottawa.
Yeah, I would think so. Honestly, they really don't have to put Luukkonen in until the middle of the month if they don't want to. I probably would somewhere in there, because you're playing every other day at times, or there's enough rest that you could keep going with Lyon. But if Lyon pulls a game where he has to face 40 shots or something, I might stick Luukkonen in there just to give him a rest and not wait until the next back-to-back, which, as I said, it's going to take a bit to get that one. So that's the way I would do it. But yeah, Lyon and Lindy Ruff showed that Lyon is still the number one guy because he didn't come back with Luukkonen after a great game on Sunday against the Devils, and in my opinion, nor should he have. I mean, Lyon had taken the job, I feel, and I think Lindy Ruff feels, and he should have been back in that, and he was, and he won.
At St. Louis on Monday, then to Dallas Wednesday night, and Columbus an afternoon game the following weekend. What's the latest on Zucker and then Kulich, Paul?
Kulich still isn't on the ice, and we asked Kekalainen about it in Ottawa when we were chatting with him, and he doesn't ever have an answer, and I don't think it's like, I really know, but I'm not going to tell the media. It's a blood clot. You can't predict that. You can't predict when that's going to dissolve or anything like that. And there's a pretty good chance that Kulich feels fine. Yeah. But it's that thing inside of him that they have to get rid of because it's dangerous, a blood clot. And, I imagine it's dissolving it or whatever the doctors are doing with it. So that has to be frustrating for him. He probably feels like he could play, but there's something inside his body that's saying, no, you can't play right now. I mean, I've seen him leaning over the boards. He's on the bench quite often for practice, and he'll have a stick. And, he'll be passing back and forth to players and that kind of stuff in his gym shorts over there at the bench. But that's really, I doubt he's on treadmills or anything else. I mean, he's got to get healthy first. Zucker had a conversation with Lindy Ruff not too long ago, and Ruff said Zucker told him that he'll probably be ready to roll right after the holiday break. So I'll be interested to see if he'll be at the morning skate tomorrow. Mm-hmm. Of course, as you know, nobody could practice or even travel today. Normally, the Boston Bruins would have traveled to Buffalo today, but no team can do that. So it's like preseason where you go to the visiting team on the day of the game. I don't know if they'll leave in the morning and morning skate here or if they'll morning skate in Boston and leave a little bit later. I've seen teams do it both ways. And that's why a lot of these games have teams playing that are closer together.
Yep.
I mean, you don't want Pittsburgh to have to go to Las Vegas, on the day of a game type of a situation. So, a Boston to Buffalo flight is not that big a deal. So that's what has to happen tomorrow.
Paul, Kulich probably can't even work out then, right?
I wouldn't think so. No, not with, I think it would probably be dangerous. Of course, I'm not a doctor, as you know, but I from what I'm hearing, it just seems like, he's got to take it easy until this is solved, whether it's dissolving it or I don't know how you solve blood clots. Thank God I've never had one, but it has to get solved first. Now, I'm not at all inferring this is going to happen with Kulich, and Lindy Ruff has said that he thinks Kulich will be back sometime this year, but I have seen that end careers where players just have to stop. And again, I have not heard that with Kulich at all. All I know is it's happened, But Lindy Ruff did say back when it happened that he is expecting Kulich is going to be able to play again at some point.
Looking forward to the World Juniors. Do you get up for that tournament?
With Sabres in it, I do. Mertka was supposed to play, but he all of a sudden has come up with an injury, so we're going to have to wait and see if he's going to get into that tournament. But three guys on Team USA, and Ziemer from the University of Minnesota is their captain. And he has always impressed me when he's been here for a development camp in July. He's been here for a couple and has done a nice job in the 3-on-3 tournament. You notice him on the ice. And, he's playing at the University of Minnesota. Kleber, one of the big right-handed shooting second-round pick defensemen who a lot of people have talked very well about, is playing for Team USA also. And Osborne also is playing. He's a lower pick for the Sabres, but really has come on this year in college, and I've heard a lot of talk about him. So he made the team also for Team USA, so that'll make Team USA a little more fun to watch.
I believe their first game is today against Germany. The tournament's in Minnesota this year. Mm-hmm. So, and we've won the last two, I think.
I think that is correct. You're catching me here. You know my memory. You're the one that usually checks my memory for me.
Not anymore. I should have looked. That would have been the professional thing. And unfortunately, there's no way to find out who's won the last two World Junior Championships.
Yeah, neither one of us can hit Google, right?
Yeah, I don't have a media guide sitting here next to me that would give me that answer. They didn't send me anything this year. All right, Paul, thanks for your time, and we'll talk next week.
Take care.
Paul Hamilton on the West Her Hotline. The Sabres and Bruins tomorrow night in Buffalo, and then I mentioned the schedule next week. It's back on the road for 3, starting Monday in St. Louis. St. Louis is kind of down. The league is so tight. I guess it always can look that way, but like in the Pacific Division, Vegas is on top, and they have a losing record. 17-18. All right. 17-8-10. But still, like they've lost more games this year than they've won, and that's first place. Weird. Colorado's doing all the damage. The Sabres play Dallas next week, and Dallas has had a fine season also. In the East, Detroit, good. Montreal, pretty good. Carolina, pretty good. And you get into everybody else and right around the middle. The Sabres are 36 games, 18 wins, 18 losses, which I think we should be happy about. Like it's trending the right way. I think they've been pretty fortunate. These overtime and shootout games, who knows? But maybe they were a little bit unlucky earlier in the season by the numbers, and it's turned in their favor. Great. Season is alive as we get near January 1. Let's get it to January 1, right? Let's get through Boston and St. Louis and Dallas. That's New Year's Eve, I think, without getting, frustrated again. Thanks for listening. Bulldog is off through New Year's. I'm Mike Schopp, back with more, and then Sal Kapacio at 5 after this. Football Friday here on WGR. Probably should bring this out, having not been here yesterday. It's a Thursday feature, but The Line, presented by FanDuel, an official sports betting partner of the NFL. The Bills are 1.5-point favorites against Philadelphia. Sam Panadovich said this earlier, and he's been heavy on the Bills this year, looking at the futures market mostly. I find myself most weeks, well, at least this season, if not always, I don't know if it's just who I am or what it is, skeptical about them. I have a tough time betting on the Bills. I did a couple of games ago and got away with it. There was one game, I'm not sure even which game it was, but I was right on one of them. And, other times this year, kind of feeling less confident in them. I was right also. I haven't gone perfect this year when it comes to the Bills. All that is to say that I do like them this week, minus 1.5. Philadelphia, I think I want to say, outranks that San Francisco team last year, Dallas from a couple of years ago, good NFC teams, good to great NFC teams coming in. Not a lot on the line for Philadelphia. The Bills might end up with a lot on the line if they get lucky with New England. Even still, they win and they'll have something to play for next week. So I'll give 1.5. I agree with Sam that it's a little bit, I don't want to say disrespectful because I don't think it really works like that, but only minus 1.5 at home here against Philadelphia. I'll bite. Also, in this game, we're always looking for longer shot touchdown scores. Can we get in the end zone with Josh Palmer at some point? Can there be a play? Has there been a Josh Palmer play yet? I'm waiting. Has there been like a moment with Joshua Palmer? I'm thinking of the play, I guess it's in Atlanta where he gets hurt. But I don't have a touchdown. I've got 20 catches, the big free agent get. And now, as far as I know, he's healthy. We'll talk to Sal in a minute or 5 minutes or so to be more precise and wonder what he thinks about this idea. But Palmer to score at all is plus 470 at FanDuel. That's a nice number if the guy could just break one. Still waiting for his first Bills touchdown. Tomorrow, 2 games, Houston Chargers and then Ravens Packers. No Jordan Love tomorrow night for Green Bay. Sal Kapacio next, Football Friday. I'm Mike Schopp, and this is WGR.
The Buffalo Bills official injury report is in. 4 players have been ruled out: Jordan Poyer, Jordan Phillips, Matt Prater, and Daquan Jones, while just tight ends Dalton Kincaid and Dawson Knox are questionable. Both were also limited today. Everyone else should be good to go, while for the Bills' opponent this Sunday, the Eagles, linebacker Nakobe Dean and tackle Lane Johnson have both been ruled out. And the Barnes Firm Injury Report, it is brought to you by the Barnes Firm. Injured for help, call 1-800-8-MILLION. Bills do host the Eagles Sunday, 4:25. Pregame, though, right here on WGR will get underway at 11 a.m. and carry you all the way to kickoff, where we'll then hand things off to Chris Brown, Eric Wood, and Sal Kapacio, who will be on the call from the Northwest Bank broadcast booth. And do stay tuned. Coming up next, Sal will join the show to give us the latest on the Bills. 2 games tomorrow in the NFL, 4:30. Chargers host the Texans. That game's going to be over on NFL Network, while at 8 o'clock on Peacock, it is going to be the Packers hosting the Ravens, and that looks to be a battle of backup quarterbacks. Lamar Jackson is doubtful for Baltimore. He's dealing with a back injury, and then Jordan Love already ruled out for the Packers. Malik Willis expected to get the start for Green Bay, while Tyler Huntley expected to go if Lamar Jackson cannot. Then for Sunday, Steelers, they have ruled out TJ Watt as he continues to recover from his collapsed lung. Steelers at Cleveland Sunday at 1. While in college football, the Michigan Wolverines, they have their next head coach reportedly, as Pete Thamel and Dan Wetzel were first to report that former Utah head coach Kyle Whittingham is going to be taking the Michigan job and signing a 5-year deal. Whittingham was the head coach for Utah from 2005 until resigning at the end of this season. That's your Paddock Chevrolet Sports Update. Paddock Chevrolet celebrating 90 years of being your hometown dealership. I'm Zach Jones for WGR Sports Radio 550.
I don't really want to say it, but I think the NFL, pro sports in general, deserves this kind of scrutiny. Not even that controversial. It's just, I wonder if Love plays if Green Bay isn't clinched for the playoffs. They're in for sure. Very little left to be decided, sadly, disappointingly, with 2 weeks to go in the NFL season in terms of who is going to the playoffs and who is not. Nothing in the NFC except the NFC South winner, which isn't itself that exciting anyway, Carolina and Tampa Bay, but it's something. And then in the AFC, you have the Steelers-Ravens thing, which is almost all over already, but not quite, with Pittsburgh. And then Indianapolis has around a 5% chance of getting in, but nothing better than that. We know the teams for the most part. Sal Kapacio with me now on the Wester Hotline. Sal, how was your day yesterday?
It was good. It was good. It wasn't a lot of really good football, but we knew that going in. Nothing to really say like, oh my gosh, I'm really looking forward to this. But I was looking forward, I guess, mostly to that night game, and I thought the Chiefs had a shot, and sure enough, they did. But didn't go their way. Hang out, went to my mom's house yesterday. That was nice. So I got to spend the day with family, and it was good. It was good. Hope you had a good day too.
I did. Kansas City paying it all back in the close games department this year.
Yes.
They have an overtime win over the Colts, but every other one-score game, I think they've lost. Kind of the opposite of last year. I didn't see much of anything yesterday, but I wanted to bring this up about Washington, and maybe you saw this. Do you know Washington's record this year in standalone games?
I do. I saw the stat, yes.
0-8.
0-7. 0-8. 0-8, and a negative 77 differential in points.
First of all, 8 standalone games. I mean, I don't know if anything was flexed either, because they've never been good this year. All 8 have been losses. The most since the 2010 Cowboys. They might have had 6 then. I'm not sure if this is like the all-time record. It might be, because there are more of these games than ever. I probably want to guess that it is. 8 losses in, games that are not at 1 or 4:25 on Sundays. That's really all that is. It's amazing.
And then next year, they won't have that same treatment. I mean, they were put in that spot this year because of the season they had last year because of Jaden Daniels, but that's gone away. So next year, you won't see them in that spot. So who knows? Maybe they'll have a resurgence next year and they'll play this game or the following year. But, yeah, I think they're going to be much, much less highlighted next year.
Yeah. So the Bills and the latest on injury, Sal. Jordan Poyer to miss this game. What will that mean as you see it?
Well, I don't know how the Bills will necessarily play it from a down-to-down basis because they could match up, personnel, and there could be different people out there. But I think generally the consensus would be because he went out there and he was the first guy out there, that Cam Lewis would be the natural first backup. He is also the natural backup to Taron Johnson. But they like Cam Lewis a lot, and he knows the system. He knows everything to do. So I think that he would probably be the guy to go there. And if something were to happen to Taron Johnson, then he also then goes in and fills in for him. And then you'd have probably Jordan Hancock go back and play safety. Interestingly, though, I do think Darnell Savage is an interesting guy here because we haven't seen him yet in a Bills uniform. And I wonder what they feel about him, what he could bring to the table. He's been here for a few weeks. But that's personnel-wise. Otherwise, I think, what Jordan has meant to settle down the secondary has been a lot. What he's meant to Cole Bishop has been really great. But Sean McDermott made a good point today. He said Cole's kind of used to different guys there. He played a lot with DeMar. He played a lot with Jordan Poyer. He played a lot with Taylor Rapp. So they're not concerned about that. And I would understand that as well. But I do like the combination that it's been with Jordan Poyer and Cole Bishop. And Poyer had a really good game last week. So let's hope that it's just not something that's going to keep him out long term. You were just talking about, if the Packers didn't have it clinched, would they go with Jordan Love? I think the Bills have to also start thinking about that, Mike. And I think Sean McDermott answered a question like that today, interestingly enough, to kind of give you an indication that they're starting to think like that a little bit when it comes to management and guys and injuries and where they are right now.
Well, that's been something we've talked about for a while here. This season has always been tracking to the point we're at, which is they will still have something to play for. It might even be the division title. They can't lay down with all their good players, but it could end up being a little bit more of an effort than they'd prefer to take or make because they're likely to be a wild card here. So what do you think this is going to look like, Sal, whether it's this game or next week? Next week, meaning if they're still a game behind New England, what do you think it'll look like if McDermott indeed wants to play it carefully?
I think they still play their regular complement of players. There's only so many you can sit, as you said. It's a 48-man roster. I think you're scoreboard watching if you get it next week, to be honest with you. Now, we don't know what next week's schedule looks like. It could kind of solve itself before they need to, right? I mean, the league could put the Patriots. Let's just say the Bills and Patriots have the same result this week, so they do go one more week. The league could put the Patriots on Saturday, and the Bills would know by Sunday if they should rest guys or not.
I want
the Bills
Sal,
on Saturday.
If I may, I want to say though they probably wouldn't do that. I mean, maybe there are exceptions to this, but in a situation like that, they want to have the two teams playing simultaneously so that nobody gets an advantage knowing the other's result.
I 100% agree. I know how that works. I believe they had this kind of similar situation with the Chiefs a few years ago, and they played them on Saturday.
Yeah.
Like the Chiefs were going for the 1 seed, and they won, and they got it, so everybody else knew that they couldn't get the 1 seed.
I just wonder if that's different than a division race.
It could be. Yep, it could be very well. So let's just say, though, you're right. So let's go back to the original part. The way I'm thinking, Mike, is so then you're probably scoreboard watching. You're putting them on the same time, let's say 1 p.m. Sean McDermott is trying to win the game, but people are telling him what's going on in the Patriots and Dolphins, and the Patriots have a 2-touchdown lead in the second half. Maybe you start pulling guys out and go, okay, we're not going to risk anything here. I think it's really interesting. But he did give an indication today. What he said today was when he met with the media, he did the Extra Point Show, his weekly appearance with me, and then he met with the media, so you get extra stuff there. And he was asked kind of this sort of question, and he said, you have to keep the main thing the main thing. He said, but you also have to multitask, and that's on me, he said, meaning him, where he wants everybody else to do what they're supposed to do, but he's got to kind of think about that and think through it. And I think that's interesting to even say that.
Mm-hmm. One other example of this kind of thing would be the year the Bills broke the drought, and and the Ravens were playing for that last spot, and they put both teams on at 4:25 or 4 o'clock so that one would not know the other's outcome. By the way, remember who the Dolphins starting quarterback was for that game?
Was it Matt Moore? Fiedler? No.
Jay Cutler.
Can't remember which one. Cutler. Okay, man, I'm getting so many Dolphins.
There's a lot of them.
Backup quarterbacks, in my brain here for a while. Yeah, you're right. And then in that game, Mike, they were getting updates on what was going on. Like, McDermott he wasn't like telling the team, but I'm telling you, I was there on the sidelines and people were yelling it to the players, like, you guys, the Bengals are up. Oh, Ravens are winning. I remember that happening, and
sure.
McDermott's talked about that in the past. So we'll see. But as far as this week is concerned, the Patriots do play before the Bills. I don't expect the Patriots to lose. I expect fully the Patriots to win. However, I will say they are pretty depleted with some injuries.
Yes.
And the Jets are home, and Aaron Glenn is the kind of guy that's going to do whatever he can to spoil the party, right? He's just that kind of coach. He's going to want to every win, every down's going to matter. So it is at least something to pay attention to.
I'm on the Jets. I told you that on Wednesday. I'll just hedge it by taking the points, but it's 2 touchdowns.
Yeah.
I wouldn't be surprised. I'm expecting a close game, I guess is what I want to say.
I am too. I expect the Jets to keep it a little closer. They kept it close in New England on a Thursday night earlier this year. Mm-hmm. Different situation. But I do think the same thing. And look at, the Patriots are down. Mac Hollins, Booty, Milton Williams isn't coming back.
Right.
Harold Landry is out. Spillane is out. They're down, guys.
I like the Cutler trivia question for like opposing quarterbacks. That's the last game of his career. And he came right out. He left that game immediately. It was meaningless for Miami, and he played one possession. They punted, and he was never seen again. David Fales went in and played that game out for Miami. That's the game where the Bills break the drought and then go to the locker room. Of course, their game is over earlier, and they get to watch the Bengals upset from there. And the Bengals had a good lead that day and lost it. Baltimore came back on them. Early on, it looked like maybe Cincinnati was going to cruise, but ended up being the famous Tyler Boyd play.
Mike, I think about this question you asked me, and I've been thinking about it a lot too, and there's 2 parts to it. It's, like the division. You want to win the division. You want to have a home game. Like, why wouldn't you? I think that would be the number one thing that if it gets you to, okay, we got to play our guys. I do wonder about seeding, though, like how much that matters to them. You could, maybe the vision isn't in the window anymore, but, well, if we win, got to go here. If you lose, you got to go here. And I don't know. I just, you talk about, you've talked many times about choosing your opponent in the playoffs. Mm-hmm. It's kind of like that in a way that the Bills, they wouldn't have full control over that. I totally understand. But they could kind of find their way to it a little bit.
A little bit. I mean, it's still two weeks. And you can easily overthink this, trying to set up for a certain matchup. I think probably, I would guess that the Bills just don't get that far. That we're going on the road. We want to be a little careful, 50-50, tiebreakers on injured players. But wherever it takes us is where it takes us, because that is very possibly 3 road games. And if you spend too much of an effort trying to pick out your path, you're going to have a tough time being right, just with other results. I would let's talk about Denver for a minute, because you watched them last night. And much like New England and Jacksonville, like these are teams that have almost no meaningful playoff history, recent history. They're newbies to this thing, but they've all had great seasons. Not so the Steelers. You could include the Chargers if you want here, with still a chance at the AFC West, or even Houston, I suppose. That's the theme this year in the AFC. Denver last night, I didn't see the game. I know it was a struggle, like you said. Sam Panadovich on with me earlier said, the Bills would kill Denver. He's not even worried about it. I don't know. How good is Denver?
It's a tough question, because I don't want to sit here and go, well, I don't think they're that good. They won 13 games. You got to be good to win 13 games. I think they have a good coach who can be creative and put them in good spots. I wasn't super impressed with Nix last night until he was making plays out of structure. That's kind of been who he's been lately. He's not been super accurate from the pocket. He was missing some throws last night, by the way. Threw a couple dimes, but he missed a few throws. He was good out of structure, out of the pocket, running, using his legs. They're very good on defense with getting after the passer. They can definitely do that for sure. But they've had some teams put a few numbers on them, including Jacksonville. So I just lump them in with a lot of teams in the AFC. I don't think there's any dominant team in the AFC. I think every team can beat any team that's in the field and lose to any team in the field. This is not a year where you have a Kansas City where it would just take okay, everything's got to go right for you and wrong for them to beat them. That's not the case here against Denver or against Jacksonville or against Buffalo, to be quite honest. Like, it's going to come down to a few plays made here or there, and they've made their plays this year. They've won 11 one-score games this year, and that means they've made some plays in the moments they've made them. But, Mike, last night they're playing a really depleted, almost like a preseason type of roster with Kansas City, including the quarterback, and they were down late in the third quarter, and it took them a drive in the fourth quarter to ultimately win the game.
Right. Back to the Bills. Kincaid and Knox, both listed as questionable. That's the full list of questionable listed players, the two tight ends. Is there any way to rank? Are you doing this, like ranking each guy's chances of playing, who's more likely to sit or whatever?
Not ranking them, but I'm not overly concerned about either guy playing, not playing, because they've kind of done this with Dalton Kincaid, and McDermott himself has said it's more injury management. It's why he's not practicing. He pops up in the injury report, and I know a lot of people, oh my God, there he is, he's hurt again. It's really just something they've been dealing with. They're trying to be smart with it, as Sean McDermott said, and he played last week, but he hasn't played a lot of snaps. So probably looking at the same thing again. He'll play, not get a ton of snaps, hopefully. But, Dawson, I will tell you, during the game, I could tell there was something. He was laboring a little bit. You could tell that. But he practiced today, and I don't think he finished the game last week. That's generally a sign that, he should be good to go. This is the kind of game where, you're probably going to lean on the run game a lot. It's not going to be a game where I think Dalton Kincaid has to be, super big in the passing game. It's not going to be the best weather necessarily. I think both these teams want to run the ball. So you're looking more at Jackson Hawes and Dawson Knox and Reggie Gilliam. So you're probably looking at kind of a similar pattern to what you saw last week.
The weather on Sunday, into the 30s, maybe a little wet?
It might be the worst kind of weather that you want for a game, which is like mid-30s with rain.
Yeah, no fun at all.
I mean, that is just, not fun. Pat Hammer was on with me today on the Extra Point Show, and he said the same thing. He said it's just kind of most miserable football weather you can get. The rain will be more of like a steady nuisance, he said. It won't be really hard rain, but you're looking at probably mid to high 30s, so closer to 40, which isn't too bad. The good news is not much wind at all, but pretty much a steady rain, and that's going to create a little bit of a slicker condition. He said, in Pat's opinion, he said it's the kind of weather that's probably going to affect the field and the passing game and the kicking game.
Talking about the injuries, the Barnes Firm Injury Report. Injured? For help, call 1-800-8-million. What do you think of the Eagles? Are they, for you, close to what they were last year? They've had these seasons where they're almost like two parts, and that's gone both directions. This one, they were going along, it seemed just fine, and then some bumps. Now lately they've won a couple against weaker teams.
They're not the same team to me that they have been, but they still have so much talent. You just wonder when they're going to put together. It's almost like when we watched Kansas City the last couple of years at times going, yeah, but they're going to figure it out. They'll put it together. They'll just start beating the heck out of teams. And it just hasn't happened. Now, the last couple of weeks it has, right? But they played lesser opponents, so you don't really know what that is. But you're waiting for the running game and Saquon to just explode, and they've been better lately. But, he's had some struggles this year, and you're waiting for the big passing game to unfold, and they'll have a play here or a play there. What's really done it for them, though, their defense has been very good. They've been one of the better defenses in the league over the last month and a half, and that's what's kind of helping them win games and giving their offense opportunities to do what they have to do. But they have a few injuries. Lane Johnson is out, as you heard Zach say, and from Lou DiBiase, who was on our Always Game Day in Buffalo podcast, he said, and I've heard this from other people, other than Jalen Hurts, he's probably the most important player on their offense, Lane Johnson, the way that they play and how good they are. I mean, Barkley, of course, but he hasn't had necessarily the year. But their defense is good. They got some good young players over there. I just wonder about them, Mike. They're not locked into the 3. They can get the 2, but they're 3 or 2, right? That's their seed, and they're going to be home. And they're probably going to play against, I guess they could play Green Bay, but they're going to play against either Green Bay or one of the NFC West teams. So it's an interesting spot for them as well.
It's very similar, isn't it? Both conferences are this, where how badly do you want it? If I'm Philadelphia, I'm not sure I want it that badly. I'm not sure which is better. I mean, I guess as a 3, we've had this with the Bills. You go on the road in the second round if there are no upsets. Right. That's not, ideal. But
well, I think for them, if you get to the 2, wouldn't you, at this point, wouldn't you rather play Green Bay than the Rams coming to your place?
Probably. There's a 60-some% chance that it's Seattle if the Niners win their 2 games. And, I mean, that's okay. It's interesting how it hasn't happened yet, but it's very possible Sam Darnold is putting down the exact same season that he just did for Minnesota.
I know.
He goes to a new team, and they're pretty much dominant until they get to the end. And if, like what happened with Minnesota last year, they lost that last week and had to go to L.A., and suddenly 14 wins wasn't that great. And that's right where Seattle is. So, I mean, it hasn't happened yet, but could end up with the same conversation about him in the offseason. Like, all right, so what about it? All those wins, good for you. Maybe a couple Player of the Week awards or something, but you know what? In the end, was a very tough division. Who would be the team? Most people seem to say the Rams for this. Who would be the best? Who's the best team in the NFC? Like, who would be your pick?
Yeah, I think with all things equal, healthy, I think it's the Rams. I do. I think, but I don't think they're unbeatable. I mean, even the Seahawks beat them, and they've had a couple games where they haven't looked themselves, but for the most part, they are, I think, the best overall team, top to bottom, in the NFC.
Okay. Well, it'll be an interesting one. Maybe not the highest stakes. We talked about the schedule when it came out. I said all the time, I feel like they might have wasted Philadelphia, Buffalo.
Yeah.
And I think they kind of did. I mean, there have been other big games, and can't have everything, but it's a little bit of an anticlimax here for these two. I'm with the Jets, though. So are you. Like, maybe that just sort of you get a shocker there, and that just changes everything come 4:25 Sunday.
Oh my gosh,
if that happens,
oh.
Then it's gonna feel like we were wrong to complain about anything all year.
Yeah, maybe. I mean, then you'd be lamenting, going, "Oh my God, I can't believe they could get to the 1 seed if it wasn't for losing that one game or whatever," because they would have, because Denver's sitting there right now. But you're right. I mean, if it does happen, if something crazy were to happen and the Jets were to pull the upset, you're right. You roll into that 4:25 p.m. game with a much different vibe, I think, than what it currently stands. And you're like, I don't really know what this means right now.
Thank you, Sal. Enjoy your weekend.
All right, you too. Thanks.
Sal Kapacio on the West Her Hotline. His appearance is brought to you by Outlet Liquor. What's your outlet? Really, what is it? The Friday Drive at 5 is brought to you by Northtown Hyundai, Western New York's premier Hyundai dealership. Shop online at northtownhyundai.com. By Northwest Bank for what's next. Get started at northwest.com. And by Excelsior Orthopedics Express. Sideline with a sprain, strain, or break? Get to Excelsior Orthopedics Express. Bulldog is, plain to see, not here, but he sent me pics. We both stunk last week. No ground was gained. He's got 5 games for me. I've got 5 games for him. And we will share this vital information with you after the update. Happy holidays, Merry Christmas, Happy New Year, even. Thanks for listening. Mike Schopp here on WGR.
Is in. 4 players have been ruled out: Jordan Poyer, Jordan Phillips, Matt Prater, and Daquan Jones. Tight ends Dalton Kincaid and Dawson Knox are both questionable, and those are the only game day designations. Everyone else should be good to go. While for the Eagles, linebacker Nakobe Dean and tackle Lane Johnson are officially ruled out. The Barnes Firm Injury Report is brought to you by the Barnes Firm. Injured for help? Call 1-800-8-MILLION. Bills host the Eagles on Sunday, a 4:25 kick. Pre-game, though, right here, will get underway at 11 a.m., and we'll carry you all the way to kickoff. We'll then hand things off to Chris Brown, Eric Wood, and Sal Kapacio, who will be on the call from the Northwest Bank broadcast booth. 2 games tomorrow in the NFL. First one at 4:30. It's the Chargers hosting the Texans. That will be over on NFL Network. Then at 8 on Peacock, it is going to be the Packers hosting the Ravens. Lamar Jackson, doubtful for Baltimore. He's dealing with a back injury. The expectation then will be Tyler Huntley will get the start there. And then for the Packers, Jordan Love has already been ruled out. Malik Willis is expected to get the start for Green Bay. Then in college football, the Michigan Wolverines have their next head coach. Pete Thamel and Dan Wetzel were first to report that former Utah head coach Kyle Whittingham is going to be taking the Michigan job and signing a 5-year deal. Whittingham was the head coach for Utah from 2005 until his resignation at the end of this season. That's Paddock Chevrolet Sports Headlines. Paddock Chevrolet celebrating 90 years of being your hometown dealership. I'm Zach Jones for WGR Sports Radio 550.
And what if I did do it? Even though I admit to nothing and never will. What does that make me? And I'm not here just defending myself, but all those pickers out there who've been caught. Each and every one of them. Who has to suffer the shame and humiliation because of people like you.
It's Mike Schopp and the Bulldog.
Are we not human? If we pick, do we not bleed?
On WGR.
I am not an animal.
Sports Radio 550.
Bulldog sent me his picks. I've got mine. My lead is still 5.5 games, I believe. Or 6, something like that. 5 or 6 over him. But I am returning to the mean, I guess. And I'm in no way surprised. I never thought I had a handle on this. Just more a lucky streak. 49, 39, and 4 is my record. He's 44, 46, and 3. Which means he's picked one more game than I have. That doesn't help the math. Maybe I should pick a 6th game. We have 10 different games here this week. Neither of us is brave enough to venture into Giants-Raiders. The 2 teams with the worst records in the NFL meeting in Week 17. And the Raiders might be outdoing themselves by putting Brock Bowers on IR. Now they're doing the same with Max Crosby, and they say Crosby wants to play. But the Raiders are like, no, we don't need you. So what will this game look like? The Giants already have looked like a team that wants the first pick, that knows what the stakes are for these games. I mean, players always want to compete and win. We know that. We've been through this 1,000 times. The Giants play Minnesota. I'm an idiot for picking them last week. Or even the week before. At least last week I should have known. I've been saying since that Patriots game that they lost, they didn't want to win. Well, why would I, pick them then? I knew that they didn't want to win. Last week, they've got Jackson Dart, a first-round pick. Oh, you want to see what he can do against Minnesota? No. They want to hand off 18 times in a row to start the game and hardly throw the ball ever. 35 passing yards. What they want, and I don't really blame them, is for him to get through the season. Play, but survive more than beat anybody or flash. You got Shuck in New Orleans, who looks kind of interesting, and they're winning games, which is, I don't know, in one sense maybe dumb, but that's what's happening. The Giants don't seem to want any part of that, and now they're playing a Raider team that's going to sit its best guys. What could this game look like? I'm not going there. And neither is Bulldog. Here are my picks for Week 17. Pick 1, I'm taking the Bills minus 1.5 against Philadelphia. I think there's a chance if I get the Jets upset, which would be incredible, that the Bills walk into this game with some suddenly higher stakes, which it would be much higher if the Jets were to win that game against the Patriots. Even without not a super important game for Philadelphia, the total is 44.5. I think people are expecting a more conservatively played game, not a showdown game between two top teams. So Bills at home minus the 1.5. And then for pick 2, I'll take the Jets. Money where my mouth is. The picks are not for money, but I have bet the game with money. So there. 13.5 is my number. The Jets. Division game. Home. I don't know. The Aaron Glenn point. The Brady Cook having started already point. The Patriots injuries point. The Patriots have not dominated teams. They have some lopsided wins, but they've not just blown anybody out really. Maybe one or two games. Not the Jet game when they met earlier in the season. Jets plus 13.5, late December, at home, all of it. Pick 3. I'll take both of these. 3 and 4 are the 2 Saturday games. I'm going to take Houston and the 1.5 I get with the Texans at the Chargers tomorrow afternoon. It's already baked in. I'm not thinking of something that the others haven't thought of, but the edge rushers against a depleted Chargers line and an injured Herbert. Houston on the road, plus 1.5. And reluctantly, I will take the Ravens and the 4.5 against Green Bay tomorrow night. Jordan Love is not going to play. They've clinched now. Detroit's loss. Green Bay is in. And maybe the Eagles, maybe the Packers, maybe even the Bills or the Texans, maybe these are all teams that just don't push it here in these late season games. I mean, the playoffs are almost entirely set, just not seeding. And it's debatable at best how important the seedings are for these teams that are either locked in as a home team or a road team. The Bills are not quite locked in, but it's close. Again, that could really change significantly on Sunday. But I'll take the Ravens and 4.5. Probably no Lamar Jackson. That seems like it might be fractured again with that team and that quarterback and that coach. It gets old. But no Jordan Love. Maybe the Packers do likewise with other guys. Josh Jacobs has been on and off the injury report. Give me the Ravens. Now, Pittsburgh can clinch the AFC North with a win Sunday, but that won't be settled by Saturday night, by tomorrow night. So Baltimore still has life. And that team has won a lot of games. I want to give them some credit for that and not just entirely make it about the drama. And then pick 5. Oh, we do both have this game. I'm taking Indianapolis. Don't ask me why. All right, you got that? Don't ask me. 6.5 at home against Jacksonville. A little bit of a buster game. Indianapolis coming off a one-sided home loss on national TV. The Jaguars win decisively in Denver. This is another road division game late in the season where I'd be willing to take the points. Either the Colts hang in there, maybe even win it, or just get destroyed. I'll take my chances with the Colts. So we do both have that game. Bulldog is on Jacksonville on the other side of it, minus 6.5. Didn't notice that. His picks are the Jaguars with the 6.5, giving the 6.5 to the Colts in Indianapolis. He's on Tennessee, plus 2.5 at home against New Orleans. I looked at that. I wanted to pick the Saints, but maybe we're getting a little bit carried away with the Saints. Road favorite against anybody. Quarterback looks okay. Does Tennessee's quarterback look okay? That's a big win against I don't know if it's big. Win against Kansas City last week. Not big for their draft status, but at least it was something to build on maybe. So Bulldog is going to take the Titans and the points at home. Pick 3, he wants San Francisco minus 3 against the Bears. I couldn't do it. Another one where the favorite here is coming off a really impressive showing, San Francisco. And we all saw it. They might not have George Kittle. I'm expecting him not to play. John Lynch, the GM, said game time decision. I think that means he doesn't play. And that's a big loss. The Niners still playing for a chance at the 1. Pretty high stakes for both teams. The Bears could use the win, too. They're trying to lock down the 2 seed ultimately, freeze out the Packers. Chris is on the 49ers -3. He's with Sam Panadovich on the Browns. +3 at home against Pittsburgh. I have not thought about, this is what Christmas will do. I have not thought about that game at all. And the Steelers just seem like such a sure thing to win that division now. I mean, the Browns gave the Bills a game, and Sam liked the Browns a lot when I talked to him earlier. So Cleveland +3. And then Bulldog's 5th pick is Carolina against the Seahawks, home, +7.5. The Panthers don't need this win. They need next week's against Tampa. If they win next week, they'll have the NFC South. They can win the division this week only if Tampa loses to Miami and they win their game. So, I don't know. I've tried on Carolina a lot this year, and I seem to always miss the mark. I liked them a little bit when the Bills went there. It was a blowout. Other times, I've wanted to be done with them, and they win. So I don't have the stomach for the Panthers. 7.5 the number, home to Seattle. You do have the west to east 1 o'clock start thing in Carolina's favor there. That extra half point, too. Just think, there's a big gap for me between these two teams. I couldn't get there on Carolina. All right, so mine, Bills, Jets, Texans, Ravens, Colts. 4 dogs and the Bills. Bulldog is going Jacksonville, Tennessee, San Francisco, Cleveland, and Carolina. All right, let's roll the ball out, see what happens. Week 17 resumes tomorrow afternoon, 4:25. That's the Texans-Chargers game. That is an NFL Network game. Then the night game is a Peacock production, Baltimore and Green Bay. We're not even to Sunday, and we've already been on 4 different channels. Has the show ever sounded older than the use of the word channels? We had Netflix, then Prime, now NFL Network tomorrow, and then Peacock tomorrow. Old school on Sunday with CBS and Fox, and then NBC at night. ESPN Monday night, 8 different services for this week's games. That's where we're at in the world. I'm Mike Schopp. Thanks for listening. It's Football Friday. I'll have more for you after this. This is WGR. Stock up and save this holiday season at Outlet Liquor. There's no way you were out there asking yourself what I was thinking about just now. But not to be so predictable, I was thinking about the seeds and how Denver is now with their win. It was tough. 57% by the New York Times calculator to end up with the 1. We have obsessed to varying degrees about this 1 seed around here for 5 years. And it's never happened. This isn't over yet, but it's remote of a possibility, the Bills to get there. Denver at 57%. They have 1 game left, and it's at the Chargers, who they've lost to. It could definitely flip on Denver. Chargers win tomorrow and then that game, and Denver's on the road. They're not home yet, if you will. But 57%. And we talk about what the advantages are and how much of a big deal it is to get the bye and get the time off. That's the same thing. Play at home, just how you can rest more easily mentally, psychologically with that. It doesn't change who you are as a team, though. There are no guarantees. It's the kind of year where almost everybody in the playoff field is going to look very close in quality. And so I think even in a spot where if Denver gets the 1 and in the second round the Bills go there, or even like Houston or somebody pulls a road win off in the first round and they go to Denver, is Denver even like a 4-point favorite against anybody, maybe other than the Steelers, if it's them, or even Baltimore in the AFC? I don't know. It reminds me of the Titans year. That's the 13 seconds year. And on the Saturday, the Bengals go to Nashville and win, setting up Bills Chiefs. Winner gets home field. Although Tennessee was the one, they get eliminated, and the Chiefs win that game and then lose to the Bengals as it happens. But still, that Titans team was never great. And I don't remember how we talked. It's probably not so much about Tennessee. Might have been more frustrating that it's the Titans and not the Bills who get to that 1 seed that year. Then you got the break, if it's even that, where they lose. And, of course, the Bills could not get there anyway. The seedings on the same New York Times app for the Bills and their chances. Apologies in advance because this adds up to 101%. So there's some rounding element here that didn't get right for me. The number 1 or the likeliest seed slot for the Bills as of now is the 5 at 38%. Close behind is the 6 at 32%. So 70% chance you're the 5 or the 6. Then it's the 7, 13%, not likely. Then it's the 2 at 8%. The 3, also at 8%. These are scenarios where New England slips. And then the 1 is at 2%. So, yeah, that's actually 101%. But it gives you some idea of what are the likeliest outcomes here. And there's nothing really surprising about that. It's kind of how we've been talking and how it has felt. 70% you're the 5 or the 6. We will see what happens tomorrow and then Sunday. And it'll be very exciting and interesting to see how things might change. Go Jets. I could see it. I could see the upset. Fantasy-wise, you can always send me a tweet or an email if you got any questions. We're down to the championship week, so only a small percentage of players are even still in it. But you've got tight end drama. You might not have Harold Fannin. Already no Bowers at the tight end position this week. Fannin is questionable for the Browns. He's become a regular weekly starter at that position as a rookie. 2 touchdowns last week against the Bills. Earlier today, speaking of fantasy, Adam Krauturst joins me. That's next on WGR.
The Buffalo Bills official injury report is